Hello, and welcome to the Let's Talk Transformation podcasts. So, in today's world, senior HR, digital innovation, and transformation leaders don't need theory. They need edge, they need creativity, they need courage. And today's guest brings something rare: engineering rigor, martial arts mastery, and doctoral level reflection on embodied leadership and innovation. I am delighted to welcome Bruno Pesec to the show, engineer, strategist, martial arts specialist. Bruno, welcome.
So happy to be here, Susie.
I'm so glad I pronounced your name right.
Thank you.
We were practicing that beforehand. Anyway, so Bruno, you accompany leaders and companies on finding innovative solutions. You've written several books. You've co-founded the Norwegian Lean Startup Circle, Norway's largest lean startup community, and the Founder Institute Norway. And you're currently writing a doctorate on organizational change, integrating innovation and martial arts, which I'm quite excited to read, which is expected to be published in early 2027. So a shout out for that.
Thank
And
you.
you're welcome. And in fact, you've even created a board game on lean, but we can come to that later in the podcast. Um, so today we will be exploring innovation's human side, but also AI's strategic role beyond, I feel like saying, Bruno, beyond the hype. Um, and for me, it's about composure under pressure, managing fear, and transformation, I'm going to say, as an inner discipline. So I know, Bruno, that you see innovation not just as systems and strategy, but also as energy in the room and an embodied behavior, if you like. And I love this take on innovation, moving it away from just processes and tools. And you distinguish between doing and managing innovation. So can we start there, Bruno? Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means, the
Mm,
difference
mm.
between doing and managing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be delighted to, and I mean, you gave an amazing cross section of, of a lot of things.
I did
So
my best.
yeah, thank you. So anything that sounds specifically interesting, or you would like us to go deeper, just call it out.
Hmm.
You know your listeners
Yes.
best. So why this distinction is important? Let's start with that first. Now, this distinction is most valuable and most important in any larger enterprise, anywhere where you have multiple businesses, multiple products, services, etc. And the reason is that very simplistically, almost oversimplified,
Mm,
doing innovation or executing innovation is about transforming ideas
hmm.
into money.
Yes.
That's grossly oversimplified, but that's really what innovation is in a corporate context.
Hmm.
Managing innovation is doing that process at a scale because developing one idea is never enough for
Hmm.
organization. We need to be concurrently developing hundreds of ideas, from small ideas to big ideas, because that's the only way to create the future, to create the better tomorrow. Because if something is really innovative, it means that it has a big element of uncertainty to it.
Mm,
Because
mm.
if it was certain, it would be, I don't want to say just,
Yes.
but I'm saying just,
Of
it would
course.
be an improvement. But
Mm,
if it's uncertain, we're uncertain if the customers will react well. We're uncertain if you're capable of doing this. We are uncertain if this is the right way to talk about this
mm,
idea, to bring it to life. Then it's going to be innovative. And that
mm,
means that there's a probability, sometimes very high, that we are going to fail even if we do everything right.
mm,
So it's possible to fail at bringing idea to life, even if we do everything right, if we have the right stance, if we follow the right processes, if we have the right systems.
mm,
So that's why it's important for large companies to both focus on doing, executing,
mm,
and managing their innovation efforts.
mm,
Otherwise, they're running a risk of developing the wrong things at the wrong time, spending their resources,
mm.
driving their people into the ground, because innovation is very personal.
Yeah.
You mentioned creativity. To me,
Mm,
a lot of people, when they hear creativity, they immediately jump, to artists, to extremely
mm,
talented people, and they say, "I can never be like that. I can never write like that. I can never paint like that. I can never make music like that."
mm.
But that's just one form of creativity. Creativity
Yeah.
is simply bringing something to life. Everybody created something. We are
Mm,
creating things all the time. That's,
mm.
to me, it's elemental part of human nature. So
Yeah.
everybody has it in them. Now the
Mm.
thing is, when we create something, we put a little bit of us into
Yeah.
that creation, a little
Mm,
bit of ego. That doesn't mean
mm.
selfish. It's
No.
just how it is.
Mm,
And innovation is intensely personal because it literally means putting yourself out there. You believe in this idea and you're trying to develop it. You're trying to put it in front of others. And those others might say, well, I don't like your idea. I don't
Mm.
like what you're trying to offer me.
Mm.
I don't find it valuable.
Mm.
And we should strive not to take that extremely personally, even though it's part of us that's getting rejected. It's just part of business. We're trying to create value and we are going to fail more
Mm.
often than succeed.
Yeah.
But as long as we know how to harness this
Mm.
failure, maximize the learning, and use that to create something else that's
Mm.
valuable for the customers, it's good.
Mm.
We're still succeeding. But if
Yeah.
you're learning nothing, doing the same thing and doing it again and again and again, you might be on a road to failure.
But, but I mean, it's three different areas that are very, very difficult for human beings, isn't it? It's failure, it's uncertainty, which we know the brain doesn't like. Failure, I think, is more socialized. We're more socialized into thinking that that's not right. And then there's personal take on innovation, which of course, it is my baby. And so if you say it's not valuable or it's not going to make it, and as an entrepreneur, I've been there, I've put things out there thinking they're brilliant without checking my hypotheses, of course, putting them out there thinking this is a great idea. And often it's not received in the way that you think it will be. So how does that link to companies seeing returns on their innovation investments, Bruno? Because if I'm thinking from an individual lens, that's how a human reacts to those three things. And of course, with AI, that's what's happening. We've got more and more uncertainty, and we need to step back from who we are and think about how we augment the human side of what we're doing. So, what does that mean for why large companies rarely see returns?
Uncertainty always exists. Ambiguity always
Mm.
exists, like you said. And people, humans, they have a varying range of
Yes.
how comfortable they
Yes.
are
Yeah.
with uncertainty.
Yeah.
Now, when I work with my clients, I usually go the hardest after senior leaders
Mm.
because it's their job to remove ambiguity. So
Hmm.
uncertainty we can minimize to an extent, but ambiguity we can eliminate because we are in control of it. Let me be more specific.
Hmm.
The most common, the most recurring issue is strategy, group
Yes.
strategy, business unit strategy.
Mm.
When I speak to leaders, it sometimes happens that on the same leadership team they do not have the same understanding of what their strategy is.
Yes, I can imagine that's quite common.
Yes. Yes. And then that spreads throughout the organization. It
Of
becomes
course.
ambiguous.
Mm.
What are we doing? What are we trying to achieve in next 3 years or however they
Mm.
formulate their strategy? Now, because that ambiguity spreads, it starts multiplying with uncertainty. So now you have frontline, middle management that are trying to do their job. They're trying to be creative. They're trying to be innovative. They want to see the company succeed, but their efforts are perceived as sometimes even useless
Yes.
by the leadership because they come to me, Bruno, my people are bringing stupid ideas, not bad ideas but stupid
Stupid.
ideas. Yeah, and I ask, okay, what makes them stupid? And then they're like, oh, and then they start answering and I tell them, yes, but those ideas, they're not aligned with your strategy because you haven't been cleared what you're trying to do. You
Mm.
haven't said to your organization, to your own people, you haven't said in a clear terms what are we trying to achieve. I'm not saying to do task, but more,
Mm.
we are in this market, we are serving these customers in this way.
Mm.
Please, come up with ideas relevant to that.
Mm.
That's the level
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
clarity I'm talking about. And it's a little bit um, I'm looking for right word that doesn't sound insulting. It's surprising to me that that we are talking about this level of improvement and bringing clarity when you think that I haven't really worked with people that I would call of a lower
Mm.
intellect or something like that.
Mm.
These are smart people. They went to business schools,
Mm.
very reputable business schools. They have a lot of experience. Why are they making these silly mistakes?
Mm.
And I
Mm.
keep asking myself, why are they making this silly mistakes? And I'm going to make a very big jump, martial arts and everything. In my opinion, strategy, one way to look at strategy is like a practice, almost
Mm.
like embodied practice, which
Mm.
means that it's not enough to go. to school. It's not enough to read about strategy. It's not enough to uh, listen about strategy. You actually have to be in a company. You have to feel it with your body. What does clarity feel like? Not only, how does it read or see like? And it's very difficult to convey this practice of strategy and practice of innovation in a classroom setting. It happens in a company. It happens in real world. And why I mentioned big jump to martial arts? Because martial arts, and in fact any physical activity, riding a
Yeah.
bicycle, skiing, like you can read a book how to ski, but if you come to the slope
Ah,
and
yes.
have never skied,
Yeah.
even if you read the book and you have the pictures, you have YouTube videos, you have whatever, it's going to be insanely difficult to kind of do it. You might succeed eventually, but most people are going to simply give up. And I keep seeing the same thing with strategy and innovation. It's not because people are incompetent or incapable, but it's because they haven't experienced
No.
firsthand the practice of strategizing, the practice of clarifying, the practice of innovating, and they're trying to do their best with their limited and theoretical understanding of how that could look like. I'll pause here before I go too deep into
No,
theory.
I mean, I have lots of questions that we need to unpack around that, but let's start with the martial arts one, which, in martial arts, you don't eliminate fear and aggression, do you? You redirect it, you work with it, you use it to augment your embodied practice to get to where you want to go. What do you think is one martial arts principle that every CEO should learn?
Oh, just one, Susie. Okay, CEOs.
Yeah.
Good CEOs are disagreeable. They disagree with things. That's a good trait. One big thing that martial arts teaches you is how to engage into generative conflict. What I mean by generative conflict in martial arts, we usually have sparring sessions. It
Yeah.
means two people are fighting each other almost for real, but not with genuine intent to harm, injure each
Yeah.
other. So of course there might be punches, kicks, etc. It's going to hurt, but you're not trying, to break somebody's neck or cripple them. You're pushing each other mutually to develop your instincts, your senses, your coordination, and a host of other things. What you're actually doing is you're respectfully engaging in conflict, like it's consensual
Yes.
conflict with the purpose of developing each other. Strategizing, innovating demands conflict. Like if we are all agreeable with each other, what's most likely to happen is that we bring an idea to market and market goes, no thanks.
Yes, exactly.
It
Yeah.
was so the way to stress test that is to be hard on our ideas, on our proposals, on our strategies, while being respectful and gentle with each other. I will not say, no, Bruno is stupid or Susie, what is this nonsense? But I will go at, this idea. It doesn't make sense to me for reasons A, B, and C. It is the idea that we're discussing. This strategy, it looks like strategy of three our competitors. What makes it special? We are attacking the strategy. We are having generative discussion around this strategy. We are not destroying each other. We are improving strategy, process, collaboration, whatever. And this is a very valuable thing from martial arts. And it doesn't matter if it's boxing, wrestling, judo. I mean, there are hundreds of
Hundreds,
martial
yeah.
arts. Yeah, all of them have this principle of mutual respect and of pushing each other. Martial arts in general are collaborative. They
Yes.
are not individualistic practices. For example, running, swimming, cycling, all of these are pushing yourself. I respect them all. They're all great. But
Yeah.
martial arts are specific in those that it's with others.
Yeah.
You're there with others. Others come to you and they offer themselves. They make themselves almost naked. So
Yes.
they offer their bodies, they offer themselves, and you do the same. So you have to show vulnerability to each other. And now I'm cheating because that's another thing that's very much worth learning because especially senior leaders, it's not just their fault. It's the whole environment
Of
expects them
course.
to be all knowing. and
Yes.
invulnerable. And
Yes.
it's the leader must not show that they are distressed by
Mm.
uncertainty. Of
Mm.
course, I'm not saying that the leader should be crumbling and weeping in front of the company. It's like, I don't know what to do. What I'm saying is, you know, you have to project confidence in the sense that, hey, things are uncertain, but we're
Mm.
going to stick together,
Mm.
and this is how we're going to try to, navigate this uncertainty.
Mm.
That's the right level. You don't need to be at, this is what we're gonna do, A, B,
Yes.
C,
Yeah.
great savior.
But as you were talking, Bruno, I was thinking that that practice also sounds vulnerable. And you're right. We still have this strong myth in organizations that, strong leaders don't show vulnerability and all the rest of it. Um, but, this embodied vulnerability that you're talking
Mm,
about, which becomes a leadership strength
mm,
and practice. If I'm trying to operationalize what you're saying, Bruno, and I'm sitting here listening, thinking, I wonder, therefore, what I could do differently as a leader with my team or with my innovation group. What would the innovation equivalent of sparring practice
mm.
be? What could it look like on a daily basis?
Uh, this practice I'm going to share, it will work not just with innovation, but any
Yes.
concept.
Yeah.
So most important thing for sparring, like
Mm.
hard sparring
Mm.
on innovative ideas, strategies,
Yeah.
and any discussion point
Which will
is,
hurt, you said, Bruno. It will hurt, but it will be, but it
yeah,
will get there.
yeah,
Yeah.
is being able to first articulate what
Yes.
you're discussing and create an object.
Hmm.
What I mean by that is, make a sketch, write something on a whiteboard, draw something on a whiteboard, make, if you want, take clay, whatever. It
Mm.
doesn't matter. What's important is that the discussion point, idea, strategy, whatever
Mm.
issue is out there. So it's not within me anymore and within you anymore,
Mm.
but we articulated that and created an artifact.
Mm.
Artifact is like generic term for anything that we might have
Mm.
created. Now that becomes the discussion point. That is kind of what is taking our aggression or our
Yeah.
hard feedback, etc. We are now critiquing that specific thing. Now, we were always critiquing that specific thing, but
Mm.
we tricked our brain because we created a physical object that's now the focus. So
Mm.
I'm now critiquing that object between you and me, Susie.
Mm.
I'm not critiquing you or me. Of course, you could also make an argument, but you created that object indirectly. You are still critiquing each other. Sure, yes,
Mm.
that is correct. But we are doing so respectfully. We are
Mm.
doing that mutually. So
Mm.
we are in this room together because we want to do better.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very simple practice that doesn't require any training to implement. It doesn't require any money to implement. You just grab a piece of paper, whatever you
Mm.
have. Just create something. Oh, this is what we are discussing.
Mm.
Draw up a business model or just a little diagram. Okay, so we have A, B, and C. We are doing this. Oh, let's try to write this down. How would this sound? Can we draw it?
Mm.
Whatever you feel most comfortable with in the moment. Now we have the thing that we are discussing that we want to improve, that we want to engage
Mm.
over
Mm.
with, and it's important to keep going back to that. Usually the easiest starting point, if this is a team from, let's say, in a big company with the people that you don't work often so frequently,
Mm.
the first step after you have articulated that is, you know, how does this sound to you? Is this an accurate representation of what we have talked about?
Mm.
That's a great start for two reasons. You show vulnerability, you offer
Mm.
yourself, you say, you're basically asking, am I wrong in the way I understood everybody?
Mm.
So it's a genuine invitation. You demonstrate to others, hey, I'm opening up, I'm sharing my understanding of the situation, and I'm inviting critique, but
Mm.
not of me, of the situation.
Mm.
Because that is what I just described. And then people start warming up. They're like, oh, I really meant this. But it's interesting how you presented it. I haven't thought about this. You opened up a conversation. You opened up generative conflict.
Yes.
Because when people hear conflict, they think shouting, blood, massacre, violence.
Mm.
No, no, no. Conflict can be like this, like having a nice conversation, easy, no high voices, no yelling, no negative feelings. It can be
Mm.
positive. It can be enjoyable. Like when we are sparring, when I'm often sparring, I'm not in the mindset of I'm gonna kill that guy. I have to, break his neck.
Mm,
No, I'm actually having fun. It's
mm,
almost like playing. It's joyful. I'm doing these techniques. I'm trying to win, but in a sense to improve myself. And
mm.
I'm happy when I am defeated in a sparring because, oh wow, now I can think about it in the
Something
future,
different.
or
Mm,
or I'm practicing with someone who is much lower ranked than me, and I'm happy
mm,
because they're growing, they're learning techniques, they're
mm,
learning how to apply them. It's happy times.
mm.
And the same is in a business setting. If people are critiquing the strategy, the idea, etc., happy times.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
happy. We're finding ways that things might not work before we actually spend 100 million euros or dollars on them.
Mm,
Rejoice.
mm. But and I think so. I just want to stop on the playful aspect because I think we don't play in organizations very much, do we? Because it's not seen as serious, and we need to get things delivered and blah blah blah. Blah. But you're right; it creates a whole different um, brain frame for the discussion on what we're playing with.
Mm,
And your board game about playing lean, which you use to teach innovation and entrepreneurial skills. I would love you to tell us a bit more about that
mm,
because I think leaders, and the more senior you go, the more it is true. Leaders' job is to create the conditions for that play and sparring to happen. And I think a lot of them think that they should know how to do that, and if they don't ask. So I think this idea of sparring mentally, but not necessarily in a figuring it out way. So it's not aggressive sparring in, I know all this, you prove me wrong, which is what often happens. It's more, here's what I think, what can you challenge that with? So
mm,
how can you tell us a little bit about your board game and how it helps
mm.
leaders and students to actually think differently around that, Bruno?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So board games in general, or we call them serious games
Yes,
because they're
because they're
used
serious.
yeah, because they're used in a
Of
professional
course.
setting.
Yeah.
Games got a lot of traction
Mm,
in, I would say, last 20-ish years, and a lot of professionals got burnt out on them
mm,
because everything was considered a game at one moment. But everything is not a game. Just because you're jumping around or using Legos or
yeah.
using cutouts, that does not make it actually a game. It's
Again.
just a physical activity. The reason why we made playing lean was to scratch our own itch. So
Mm,
Simon, who kicked off the idea, he was running an IT consultancy, and they were using board games to teach agile software
mm,
development,
mm,
etc. And they wanted something similar for innovation. And the thing is, to skip all the science and everything,
mm.
the reason board games work so well in a business context is that they're intermediary step between classroom, so you skip the
Mm,
classroom, but you do not risk at the front line.
mm,
But while you're playing the game, your emotions and your experience is very real. Like our
mm,
brain is not so great as distinguishing, I learned or lost in a game
mm,
versus I learned or lost in reality.
mm,
And that's what makes it easy to have this skill transference. I played the game where I had to make real decisions about strategies, innovation,
mm,
etc. And that learning I can now apply to real life, to my
mm,
daytime job, because in our brain it's, it connects.
mm,
Um, the challenge with any game is to really make it a game. And
mm.
with playing Lean, we have succeeded a little bit too much because because it's a genuine board game. So people sometimes just play it to have fun instead of
Okay. Mm,
to be learning. Now, the board games, like I talked about martial arts,
mm,
they're not individualistic activities. In a board game, you still need to collaborate and cooperate with
mm,
other players. It's still a
mm,
team activity. You need to argue, you need to discuss with each other what are you going to do? How are
mm,
you going to play? What are you going to do every turn?
mm,
How are you going to behave, react? How are you trying to win, etc. And you also need to be continuously reflecting on, why did things go as they did, etc. In our case, we also, because it's about innovation, we introduced a lot of uncertainty into the game.
mm,
So how to play doesn't change, but the results, the outcomes are variable. And
Mm.
that's exactly how it is with innovating. Remember what we discussed just what
Yeah.
15 minutes ago? You can do everything right and still fail with bringing idea to life, simply because you learn that customers, they're not reacting to that. That's a
Mm.
good learning.
Mm.
Like we are not doing this. So that is the most important benefit of general, not just playing lean, but
Mm.
any serious board game, is that it puts you in the context and allows you to experience firsthand. So not listen, not hear, but
Mm.
you actually, it's your decisions, it's your emotions. They stay with you. So then later, when a similar situation appears at your day job, you connect your synapses. They
Mm.
light up neurons. And oh yeah, I had that experience. I'm seeing now something similar. I should do this. So
Mm.
it's almost like a pattern recognition based on, I will not call it fake. These are real emotions, etc. But
Of
they
course.
happened in a simulated
Mm.
environment. And this is very engaging, and
Mm.
engagement is very important.
Mm.
When
Yeah.
it comes to training, upskilling, in my opinion, there are really only two realistic options that are worth investing in big companies, and that is on the job training
Mm.
and using board games or games in general that simulate simulations, etc. Because simulations are, if you're doing something where people stand a lot to lose
Mm.
on the job training, so you
Mm.
don't want, you don't want to show someone, hey, here is 10 million euros, figure out how to innovate.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
an expensive way to
Yeah.
learn. So if
Yeah.
you can put them in a little simulator first, and then okay,
Mm.
now go to on
Mm.
the job training,
Mm.
that's great. Classroom, all the other things, not a big fan.
No. Well, and of course it becomes an embodied practice, doesn't it? If you live it and you have a lived experience of what you're living, which brings me to, your new book on augmented strategy. So the idea of augmented strategy and what AI brings to the mix now.
Yeah.
Because,
Oh.
yeah, how should top teams be using AI to help or test strategic risk? Because they can't embody it with AI, can they? So there's obvious limitations, but I'm sure there are also opportunities.
Yeah. So I mean, it's now a lot of hype. It's
Mm.
been, but it's growing and growing and growing. And people, when today they discuss AI, they're really discussing the most superficial
Mhm.
application,
Yes.
which in the media for the past few years has been large language models, so
Yeah.
various ChatGPTs,
Hmm.
Geminis, Claudes,
Good. Yeah.
Grok, yeah, you name them. So
Hmm.
people are at that level. A few years before that, it was automatic chatbots, automatic replies, etc. That's all super
Mm.
superficial, and it's really worthless in a big picture, where leadership, leading teams, strategists, etc., can leverage AI the most is not with this
No.
chatbots, etc. It's actually by improving or optimizing, to be more accurate, decision-making processes. But that
Hmm.
doesn't start by asking LLMs or something similar, hey, decide this for me. Not at all. It
Mm.
actually begins by understanding the decision you're trying to make. So that's pure human work. It's a
Yep.
categorization
Mm.
effort. It's like, okay, are we looking at M&A decision? Are we
Mm.
looking at market entry decision? Are we looking at, reducing capex decision? It's like you're
Mm.
looking at these things. And once you figure that out, you have to figure out, okay, what are the steps? What do we need? What are the inputs for this
Mm.
decision? And
Mm.
you figure out, we need this type of data, we need this type of insight, we need this type of knowledge. And then when you figure it out, which is again human work, you cannot
Of course.
query a machine to tell you what you don't or know or do
Yes.
know. So,
Mm.
so you have to do that with your people. When you have a list of, okay, this is the decision we're trying to make, these are the insights that
Mm.
we know, and these are the insights that, well, we lack.
Mm.
Then the step before that is, what type of data do we need to get to those insights? When you have mapped that out,
Mm.
drawing, whatever words, who cares? Now you can start leveraging AI, because then you can go, then you can access many different models. There are many specialized models.
Mm.
People usually, as I say, they know this popular
Yes.
market-friendly models, but there are a lot of very advanced models that are on financial engineering, on data crunching, on insights interpretation, on deep research.
Mm,
Now you can start leveraging those because you have done the thinking, you have created your decision model,
mm,
your decision framework, and now you tap into these massive data sets, these massive models, together with your human intuition, and start getting, okay, what if A would happen? Usually, when we are doing scenario planning, because of the constraints, we might do 3 to 5 scenarios.
mm,
Now, with modern AI tools, we can do infinite scenarios. Well, you can say,
mm.
give me 100 scenarios, do Monte Carlo simulation with 10,000
Yeah.
scenarios. That is very, very different than human effort to create 3 to 5 scenarios. But
Mm,
you had to do the thinking first. You had to formulate the model. You had to say, because you must make the decision.
mm.
It's not a machine making the decision. It's humans.
Yeah.
So I have to be able to articulate what do I want and what inputs are important for that. And then I
Mm,
can start leveraging the technology. And this applies not just to AI, but to
no.
really any technology. Figure out what we're trying to achieve first, figure out the most important elements of that, and then use technology to
Mm,
supercharge
mm.
that. My co-author, Dr. Dominic Dellerman, he calls this hybrid intelligence. That was
Yes.
his whole
Hmm.
thesis. They are now in Europe research centers just based on his concepts.
Mm,
And why I reached out and why we are collaborating is because he really puts human first.
mm,
It's about augmenting us as a species.
mm.
Our almost I don't want to say operationalizing, but I like that word. It's really enhancing and supercharging and augmenting our creativity. Instead of supplanting humans,
Yeah.
it is enhancing
Yeah.
humans. And that's a small but important distinction.
Yeah, it's a small but huge distinction in terms of the way we function and how much work we have to do with the mirror as
Mhm.
humans. Because I think often the AI thing is, you cannot delegate accountability, responsibility to a machine. Okay. And so the hard, messy human work still needs to be done, which is why if I come back to where we first started around leadership composure and mastery, inner mastery, which was my link to martial arts, of course. There are lots of links to martial arts, but playing the inner game and understanding what you're doing, technology will not change the need for that. And this whole discussion around emotional regulation, can you give us an example, Bruno, of a
Mm,
moment with the team where innovation died, not because of bad strategy, but because of emotional human behavior?
mm, mm.
Because I think too often we see, oh, I'm just going to go and get that AI thing from the shelf and that will solve my strategy problems.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Yeah. It's unfortunately I have witnessed a good number of such events, and
mm,
what makes them even sadder is that um, people involved sometimes do not even realize what has happened.
yes, but that's
So,
part of the problem, isn't
yeah, yeah.
it?
So sometimes people in the room haven't even realized that they have just killed their idea, that they just buried it, and then
Mm,
they go on for next 2 3 years, still working on it without having realized that the moment has passed. I will illustrate one small case
hmm.
where actually one side knew that it's
Oh,
the end, but the
mm,
other side did not. And that is, unfortunately, this is very common. Not a big
mm,
fan, but these events, they remain popular in big companies.
of course. Mm,
Hackathons,
mm,
ideathons, imagine any of those 1 day, 2 day, where they try to get a ton of their employees. Hey, here is a challenge. Come up with ideas, and we're gonna pick the best idea, and we're gonna, give you a rat and a chocolate box and whatever.
I'm feeling that you don't think that's a good idea, Bruno.
No, no, no. So, in this one case, and I've seen it repeat again and again, there was around 80 participants, and they generated a lot of ideas. It was a two-day event.
Okay.
Of course, some of these ideas were ridiculous, some were
Mm,
good, promising. This is normal. That's part
mm,
part of
mm,
the process. Now, what happened is they had to, capture their ideas in a specific template used by the company, and then it went to a committee that was deciding, the best idea.
Mm.
People spent 2 days, a lot of energy, a lot of buzz. They did their best to formulate ideas they would be happy to develop and they think would help the company. And then everybody goes to their day job.
Mm-hmm.
A week passes, 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
Mm.
month, 2 months, 3 months, no response. Nobody knows. Like, did my idea get selected? Did my idea get rejected? But guess who knew? The committee,
Yes.
because they went through all ideas 3 days after the event. They just didn't tell anyone. It's, to them it was, I mean, there were two ideas that look good. I have these people for a meeting.
Mm.
In 2 quarters, we have a budgeting meeting, so it doesn't make sense to really talk to anyone until we budget for developing these ideas. And this is horrible because in companies, people are not going to resent or despise you or anything if you politely reject. So
Mm.
if you write back and say, thank you for your effort, we appreciate you spending 2 days with us to propose an idea. We assessed it. It doesn't fit with
Mm.
what we're envisioning, what we're
Mm.
looking to invest in. Thank you very much. It's just normal cordial response. It's not about rejection, it's about not knowing. It's
Mm.
about not hearing back because that feels much, much, much disrespectful. Not,
Of
sorry,
course.
not just feels, it is.
Is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
it is disrespectful. And again, we are going back to this, I call them simple practices that I keep
Mm.
repeating and focusing on because this doesn't take extra effort. They already did all the analysis. The only thing they haven't done is tell everyone. But that is the most important thing because guess what happened in the company? When they tried to organize the same event or same style of event next year, response was horrible.
Zero. Yeah.
Yeah, they were not able to, first time they did it, it was a lot of people, almost 100, as they said. Next time, barely 20. And
Mm.
then they had to beg people to join because word of mouth spreads immediately. You know,
Mm.
because in that company there was on average almost one participant in every business unit, in
Oh
every
wow.
section
Oh
and
wow. Okay.
division. So
Mm.
when it was next time that they were inviting, each of those was saying,
Yeah.
waste of time. And you know what? We got pizzas and some Coke, and there was music, but never heard back anything from them. And they hear,
Mm.
people listen to their peers, so they're like, I don't want to waste my time.
Mm.
I will not attend. And this is a small, simple thing. People bring you their work, tell them what's the outcome.
Mm.
If you said you're gonna do something, do it.
Mm.
So
Mm.
simple but
Yes.
difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, but it's simple, effective communication practices, but that
Yeah.
get lost in organizational noise. Is that why, Bruno, you don't like hackathons and ideathons, or is it that you don't actually like or you don't believe in that process? Because it's quite akin to the lean, build, measure, learn
Yeah,
process.
yeah, yeah. It got super popular exactly because of startup activities.
Mm.
They're great for startups and for bringing people who don't know each other. But
Okay.
in a big company, you're better off doing more focused activities. So instead of hackathons, ideathons, you're trying to be specific because the thing is, usually how they're done is almost like a little bit of out there.
Mm.
And if you focus on out there, you're not suddenly going to start bringing that in
In
here.
here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and
Interesting. Mm.
yeah, and that's why I dislike them. And they're often outsourced to third
Yes.
parties
Yes.
who don't have the intimate understanding of your company, your
Mm.
insight, etc. They're usually coupled with when a third party is brought in, they will do their best to formulate a challenge, to formulate a problem, etc. But it's almost never going to be aligned with the company strategy because
Mm.
a third party developed the challenge for you.
Mm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's 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 a lot of those. But the biggest is that this communication falls through
Mm.
the cracks. You
Yeah.
get you risk more than you're realistically going to
Mm.
get. Because
Mm.
usually also when this type of events are organized, the instruction is think outside the box,
Yes.
be disruptive, be radical. And then people do their best to be, and people are like, oh wow, this isn't our core business. Wow,
Yeah.
really? You asked to think out of the box.
Yeah. I mean, and that's really interesting because it was a little bit like agile in the beginning. It was like, oh, we've got to do this, everyone's doing it, etc. So if our listeners are thinking, oh, I was planning to do a hackathon, and maybe I won't or I'll do it differently. Can I come back to your idea of it being more focused? So this is what I heard you can say. It needs to be more focused. It needs to be linked to the business strategy. It needs to be seen and heard and communicated. So what would that look like in terms of setting it up? Does it, and because I'm looking to put in a different mindset into my team, let's put it that way, one that will learn from failure, understand that failure is okay, um, be willing to play with the sort of uncertainty if I do my job properly as the leader and take away as much ambiguity as possible.
Mm.
So how could I go about designing something like that in an environment that is clearly short of time and short of, well, we're
Mm.
always short of budget, aren't we? That's just the standard for all leaders.
Mm.
But what would you do therefore?
Okay. Most companies, most people in companies don't have first-hand experience with their customers. That's just the
Interesting.
reality. That's
Okay.
just the reality of big companies. You know,
Yes.
if you're
Yeah.
a
Yes.
10,000 person company, you will
Yeah.
maybe have a 10% of your company that's regularly
Yeah.
interacting with
Mm.
customers. So if you're thinking about doing hackathons, ideathons, whatever, one of the best things you can organize, and this is going to be awesome to your customers, is to try to get few of your customers into the event. If you're in a B2B,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that the customers include both the users of your
Mm-hmm.
product and the buyers
Mm-hmm.
in a B2B context. In a B2C context, obviously you just need end
Custom.
end
Yes.
end user, and you try to mix them at least in a 1 to 3 ratio with the people that you're going to be inviting, and then you set it up in a such a way that, for example, first day is not you pitching your new brilliant ideas and solutions to them, but learning about how they use your product and service.
Mm-hmm.
There are different frameworks like jobs to be done,
Mm.
outcome driven innovation, problem
Mm.
solution fit from lean startup. Doesn't matter which frame or design thinking, doesn't matter
Mm.
which framework. What matters is, like we were talking, first
Yeah.
hand experience, embodied. Get your engineers, people developing your products and services, people delivering them, people serving your customers, decision makers, get them in the room with customers, and then have as a little discussions, have people walk through, prepare the customers in advance. You tell
Mm.
them, don't ambush them. You tell them, like, we would like to bring you here. We would appreciate greatly you sharing your experience, good and bad, and
Mm.
descriptions on how you do things, etc. Don't focus how would they want things to be. Focus on how things are.
Mm.
What are they doing? How are they doing? It's a never bad investment in having your people understand your customer a little bit better.
Mm.
And then you can have your second day. Hey, what we learned yesterday, let's summarize that together as all the participants. And now, when we have that, let's try to find ways to create more value for them. That's
Mm.
it. That's practical. It has multiple things because the customers are going to greatly appreciate that.
Mm.
So
Mm.
as I said, like I mostly work with large enterprises, and I would say
Mm.
70% of them are in a B2B
Yep.
sector.
Yep.
And sometimes they're serving companies much smaller than them. Sometimes
Mm.
they're serving companies much bigger than them. And
Mm.
everybody feels like a king. They come and like, oh no, no, I can tell,
Mm.
listen to me now. This is
Mm.
what I hate about your product.
Yeah.
and,
And just
and 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 again, I mean, it's rejoice. I want to
yes.
know what frustrates you,
Mm.
because obviously you have been using our product for 7 years, and there are some things that you hate, but you
Mm.
haven't left. So
Mm. Yeah.
let me know. Let me
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I want to know, and especially. In general, what people sometimes miss, they do not inquire, they do not ask about, what triggered the
Yeah.
purchase, what
Mm.
triggered the acquisition,
Mm.
why are you still doing that, and understanding these little decisions along the process, it what helps
Mm.
then to ideate, to hack,
Of
new
course.
solutions, etc. And I just want to clarify because I was super focused here from the innovation perspective. Sometimes hackathons, like original hackathons, were not for customers, they were for
No.
internal needs.
Yes.
They were or, original hackathons were software developers. We have this technical issue, let's attack it.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
figure out 100 different solutions.
Mm.
To that, I mean, I
Mm.
no critique. I'm mostly critiquing what they are today. People
Yes.
say
Yes.
hackathon, and then you see like a bunch of pep talks, pizzas, Coca-Colas, and we're pretending to be startups without any chance that any of us is going to get funded, that any idea is going to get
Yeah.
promoted.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
No. And so if I step back into that second category, which is the one that happens the most, I agree. And I come back to the human element, Bruno. How often do you see HR and people who are looking more at the behavioral and human side of it present at those events? Because I am of the belief that although it's every leader's responsibility, HR also have a responsibility to hold that space for human development.
Mm-mm. Uh, Very rarely,
Yes. Yeah.
unfortunately.
Mm.
But I would say that this is simply a broader issue
Mm.
of HR's crisis of
Yes.
identity.
Totally.
So
Mm.
they're, in some organizations, they are going to be like hardly relevant. And in some organizations, they're really going to be at the forefront.
Mm.
Unfortunately, what I have observed in most cases is that, they fish for suppliers and vendors. We want our people to be developed this way. We want
Mm.
this type of activity. Can you deliver it? And then, it all happens on the outside. Somebody does everything for them, which by itself is not horrible. I mean,
No.
that's why I use third parties. But because they're not personally involved, they're actually not developing
Mm.
themselves.
Mm.
And kind of the best HR leaders I worked with were all super involved,
Yeah.
and
And yeah.
yeah, they had. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a Scandinavian thing, but a lot of them didn't even have HR in role. They were more like people.
Yes.
They were
Yes.
called people,
People and
or
culture, or
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And then they were like people innovation,
Yes.
and
Yes.
they were focused on how to disseminate, how to create environment, how to create a culture of
Mm.
innovation. So it was, I would say, a different approach to the, let's say, regular or traditional. But that is very rare, or at least has been rare in my encounters.
Absolutely, but I think it's the whole discussion around silos, and as we move to more ecosystem
Mm,
organizational design, I think that's a key thing in terms of how do HR get involved? And we come right back to the beginning of our conversation, Bruno. You're right, it's an embodied transformation practice. It's not a project, it's not, you can get external people in to help you, of course, but unless they're living what's happening with those customers and seeing where their leaders internally are struggling with either accepting or innovating or failing or I mean there's a wealth of information in those rooms, isn't there, that they could actually step into.
exactly, exactly. And that's why, when we're talking about embodied
Mm.
experience, that's when people are discussing the value of life experience,
Yes.
because people who have lived through things, and
Mm.
I'm not talking here necessarily about age, because some
Yes.
people in
Yes.
20 years experience more than some people in 60 years of,
Correct.
of,
Yeah,
of their
yeah.
existence.
Yes.
But that's why it's so valuable, so important, when you're looking for help internally or externally, to
Mm.
try to figure out who has been there, done that.
Mm.
Not because they might necessarily have all the best answers, but because they will understand you.
Yes.
And if they understand you, they will be able to help you
Mm.
uh, better. And
Mm.
that's how
Mm.
I hope I,
Yes.
I am, because I got to experience a lot of different things in a lot of different
Mm.
elements of business, outside of business, entrepreneurship, life, war, etc.
Mm.
So it helps me understand. I have it in my body. I know how
Yes.
they feel, so I can emphasize and meet them where they are, so we can figure out the best solution together,
Mm.
even if at the moment we are not clear
Yes.
what might be, but we understand
Yeah.
each other. When we understand each
Mm.
other, we can figure it out.
Yeah.
If we don't understand each other, then we better understand we don't understand each
Learn
other,
each
so
other.
we can part ways.
Yeah. No, I agree, Bruno, and it's so powerful. And I'm just gonna, leave. our listeners with this thought, and that is something that AI cannot replace. And I think it's so powerful to look through a different lens, not age related, not background related, not country related, but life experience related, and think, what can that person bring to me? What complementary life experiences do we have that will make a difference to whatever product or service we're trying to put together? Bruno, time is running and we could go on for hours, but if every leader listening could change just one behavior tomorrow to accelerate the innovation process, what would it be for you?
Let's build on what we discussed. So for the leader, the simplest practice they can implement right now that we discussed today is when they are proposing something, to listen what everybody has to say and then to play back what they heard and ask, is my understanding correct? That will open the invitation for others to bring forward their thinking, and that I think is smallest simplest thing they can implement tomorrow without too much hassle. It's gonna feel uncomfortable. I gotta
Mm,
warn that it's gonna feel
mm.
uncomfortable.
That's where the magic is. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Bruno. I'm going to leave our listeners with that. And the innovation doesn't begin with technology, it begins with courage and understanding. And both of those are trainable. So great. Bruno, thank you so much for coming and sharing your insights and your experience. Where can people find out more about you and what you do?
Well, Susie, you have all my contact details, so everybody, you can always reach out to Susie. She has my phone number, everything. But otherwise, if you just go to www.pesec.no, you will find a lot of what I've been talking about. It's all for free for you to be more successful. Just use the material available. I'm happy for you to win.
Okay, or to have generative conflict.
So,
So I will put all those links in the show notes so people can find it easily. I might not put your phone number though. And and yeah, let us know what you think of the episode. So Bruno, thanks once again. It was a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie.